Yesterday I commended FX due to the influx of watch-worthy television it's been producing lately. From Reservation Dogs, Under the Banner of Heaven, The Old Man, pretty strong freshman lineup. And I said that not even realizing we were going to do another FX Hulu show today. The Bear consists of 8 episodes which all dropped on Hulu June 23rd. It takes place in Chicago and centers around a family's Italian sandwich shop. The first episode is titled System, directed and written by show creator Rami veteran Christopher Storer. So does it maintain the streak of high-caliber shows by FX, or does it fall on its face?
So you said that this episode was titled System, right?
System.
It should have been titled Hectic. This is as hectic as, like, the movie Uncut Gems was. Just, like, from the first second onward, all the events, like, are just crazy that happen in this TV show. And I was going into it thinking that might be some type of, like, corporate, surreal type of TV show, and it starts off that way, but then it just turns into, like, a complete mania.
The thing about Uncut Gems, though, is you're saying it was complicated. I remember it as a pretty simple plot. This guy who kind of finds himself into gambling debt, and then, like, who was it? Kevin Garnett?
Kevin Garnett, yeah.
Yeah, ends up doing really well in the game.
With the stone. Yeah, but I'm saying more like just the interactions. It's like 2 hours of people yelling at each other.
Yeah, but is the plot simple, though?
Yeah, you can understand it. In fact, I think that the whole entire season, and I don't know this for sure, but I think it's probably going to take course throughout the whole entire day. That's just what they kind of set it up as.
It's just 1 day's worth of...
I think that's what it seemed like they were going for at the end of the episode.
That would be crazy, because it's 8 episodes. So you're saying, like, each one is an hour?
I think so. Well, no, it's not an hour in real time. You do see the clock, like, turn a lot, but I think that, yeah, it's just going to take course throughout the day. Kind of like that one season of Orange is the New Black.
The one where the prison gets taken over by the prisoners?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's sort of... It takes away from my next point, which was just that we don't get a lot of TV shows that focus on food-related stuff, but now it sounds like we don't get a lot of TV shows that are like 24, where it's like minute by minute, every minute is part of the day.
Yeah, no, information, especially in the first half of this episode, goes by like a mile a minute. It reminded me of Billions in that way, where it's like you have to keep track of everything that's going on. They introduce new characters, and they throw everything at the screen very intentionally, just so that you are put into this mindset of like, oh my god, what is going on right now?
I hear the first scene is disconcerting.
Yeah, it's not like the rest of the episode at all. It starts off with Carmen. He's the main character. Mm-hmm. They made it look really cool. It's like this big landscape shot. You see that there's a river and there's like a bridge that covers it, and
sounds
it's
like a Van Gogh painting.
Yeah, it is basically, because it's like it has like blue overtones to it, and he's just walking along.
So it's nighttime.
Yeah, it's nighttime, and he's walking along this bridge. He like slowly, and then he sees that there's a bear in a cage, and he opens it. And then,
why would you open a cage with a bear?
That's a mindset that they're putting you in, though. You're like, what's happening?
So as an audience member, you don't know why.
Yeah, and then this like bear walks out, and you think to yourself, okay, well, maybe Carmen's going to be able to tame it now. No. And then it's like suddenly charges after him, mauls him, and then he wakes up.
It mauls him. Do we see, is it like full Revenant maul?
No, you don't see like him actually die.
Oh,
but you can see him like wake up. Yeah, he's like, ah, and then like he wakes up and he's like in this restaurant.
Did it look like a real bear?
I think it was a real bear.
I don't think it was a real bear.
I think it was
a guy in a mask.
Are you joking right now?
No, I think they like maybe CGI'd it, but I don't think it was a real bear.
I thought that it looked very real at least. But
we can get into bears in a minute, but the title, The Bear, right? Yeah?
Right, that's the only reason why I was like, okay, well, that's the reason why this scene is in this show, but I was wondering what the purpose of it was.
Do you find out by the end?
No, not particularly.
Well, there's other versions of things that have been called The Bear, like, you would be surprised. There's 5 films, 1938, 1984, 1988, 1998, and 2012. The 1988 one is the most famous one because it's mostly centered around an actual bear, and there's very little dialogue in it. It doesn't speak.
Just follows the life of a bear?
No, it has a whole story arc, but it almost, like that movie, The Bear was almost nominated for an Oscar.
So, but what's it
for
about?
real? Like, they said the animal people came out, and they were like, we can't nominate a bear for an Oscar. His name was Bart. We'll talk about him later. Then there's also a fairy tale named The Bear, a play, a band, an opera. But this is the first TV show.
Well, this is called The Bear, right?
Yeah, they're all called The Bear.
Oh, okay. I thought that you were saying that the name of the movie was Bear.
No, it's called The Bear, just like the show. And the show originally had a whole different conception behind it. Do you want to...
different conception?
Yeah, do you want to hear, like... I have 3 different scenarios. One of them is real, right?
Okay.
Originally, this was planned for the Food Network. It's well known that Jeremy Allen White picked up cooking during the pandemic, and after a 3-episode stint on Rachel Ray, he got a call from his agent saying that they wanted to make him his own show there.
Okay. Interesting.
Number 2. Originally, it was a K-drama named The Boar about an elite chef whose family owns an 80-year-old pork soup restaurant, but whose community is too poor to keep the restaurant afloat. Now, I think that one requires a little bit more context because I wanted to say earlier that there's not a lot of cooking shows out there, like in the Food Network, reality cooking shows,
Right.
of course, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean like TV shows centered around cooking that are like dramas. We've got or comedies, Bob's Burgers. You've got Feed the Beast, which I remember from a few years ago that had David Schwimmer and Jim Sturgis. It was about them trying to start a restaurant.
I remember the ads for that.
Yeah, it only lasted, I think, like a season. There have been like 20 different K-dramas. Like, they are all over the place. There's one called Sweet Munchies, Eccentric, Chef Moon, Oh My Ghostess, like hostess, but also I think it was a ghost that's like host. Right. I don't know. How Are You Bread? How Are You Bread?
How Are You Bread?
How Are You Bread? Walk of Love, Jewel in the Palace, Let's Eat. So like those are just the ones that came out in the last couple of years. But yeah, K-dramas all over the place. So when this originally a K-drama named The Boar is one of the options. Or number 3, originally a 2-novel story written by Bart Terreman, Gordon Ramsay's grandfather, in the 1960s about a man on his deathbed reflecting on his past and how he became such a successful chef.
Okay, well, I'm going to eliminate the third one because this one isn't really showing how Carmen is becoming a successful chef. I'll say the second one.
The K-drama?
The K-drama, yeah.
Okay, that's not it.
Okay, is it the first one?
No, none of them are it. I just made all those up. Okay, the real story is that this is based on, I guess, Mr. Beef on Orleans. It's a Chicago restaurant famous for its Italian beef sandwiches.
Yeah, it takes place in Chicago.
Yeah, well, it's actually filmed at this restaurant. Yeah. It's been around for decades. It's appeared in Food Wars, that reality show, and on Jimmy Fallon. But yeah, so if you're looking for authentic food based on the show that you want to go eat at, then you can actually go and get that. However, I think
the food looked really good. Like, the food looked like Chef. It reminded me of Chef also, the film, because like the way they were able to make this food look, like I was getting hungry. Like
Chef and Burnt. Those are the 2 movies that came to mind when I was reading about this.
Yeah.
Any other ones that you can add to it?
No, that's about it.
So I guess that here's a wide opening for this type of show. Mm-hmm. Like, we get this overloaded stuff of action stuff, but with not enough cooking stuff.
Well, it also reminded me
every day.
It reminded me of the Bust Down. The pilot that we did with Chris Redd in it, just because of
where they're working behind the is that Vegas?
Yeah, it was Vegas there. Or no, it was in Indiana, wasn't it?
Was it just a casino?
Yeah, it was a casino. But
okay.
but like the interactions everyone was having there, where they're like making fun of each other, like that reminded me of this as well. Mm-hmm. So like Carmen, we learned that he's kind of there aren't a lot of nice characters in this show. I'll say that for one. He's like the one that's trying to get stuff done. His brother died. He got the restaurant because of that. This is stuff that we learned kind of halfway through.
Happened recently, though.
Yeah, in fact, but we also learned that Carmen didn't go to the brother's funeral.
That raised some sort of tension between the family members?
Yeah, exactly. He's also kind of like cutting himself off from his sister, Sugar, who like is trying to contact him. And
you know who Sugar is?
No, I couldn't.
Abby Elliott? SNL alum, indebted, How I Met Your Mother.
I probably should have recognized her. But yeah, no, anyways, yeah. So, and then also Richie. The tension between him and Richie, because like they're both kind of vying for the restaurant, even though Richie technically isn't owning it.
Did you recognize him?
No.
Ebon Moss-Bachrach. He has a different haircut here, but he's the guy from The Punisher, Micro. He's also Nosferatu, The Last Ship, Girls, Interrogation. The guy from The Punisher being John Barenthal's like friend. The homeless guy, the one that the Punisher went to his family and hung out with.
Oh, right, yeah.
In like the second season.
Yeah, no, I would definitely want to recognize him in this. But here, he's playing like an asshole. Like he's playing, I think, the antagonist of the TV show. Mm-hmm. Like for example, when Carmen so it starts off pretty hectically, as I kind of stated. Mm-hmm. After he wakes up from the dream, there's this huge montage of Carmen. He's trying to get ready for the day.
Is this surreal? Like, is it Atlanta style?
I thought it was going to be like that, but it wasn't really.
Because one of the executive producers is Hiro Murai.
Hiro Murai, yeah, the guy who does the he directs a lot of Atlanta episodes. So soon after he wakes up, he goes to the door where there's like a meat order. He needed like 200 pounds of meat. He even thought
he lives in the kitchen.
Or he lives at the restaurant. Yeah, and he thought that he ordered 200 pounds of meat, but apparently he only paid for like 25 pounds.
Yeah,
and that's like a big deal because a ton of people are supposed to be showing up to this restaurant that day for this big tournament that kind of gets explained later on. But we see how Carmen lives his life. He literally lives at the restaurant. The only time he ever goes home is like whenever he needs a new set of clothes. He's like so unorganized.
But he has a home.
Yeah, he has a home, but he just never goes there unless he needs like a new set of clothes.
Because of how stressed he is.
Yeah, we see how unorganized his life is. He literally has like jeans in the stove.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Like that's just how crazy it is. And so I
guess there's no problem with germs that way because the stove gets so hot, it would just burn off any of the... Because it's like when you go into a freezer and you see the raw meat next to vegetables, that can be an issue.
Right.
But if you use a stove as, I guess, or a furnace as your...
Well, I was just surprised to see it. I was like, is that a stove? And I had to replay it like 3 times just to make sure it was an actual stove. But yeah, he's keeping like pants in the stove and everything. Mm-hmm. And then also we see that the chefs aren't really treating him with respect. We are introduced to Tina. She's like the main woman chef. She's very sarcastic along with Ibrahim. Those two in particular, I feel like are kind of like unlikable characters in their own right because they like to mess with a lot of people. For example,
but are they good at their job?
Yes,
is that why they're there? They're good at
that,
being on the line,
right? And I'd say there's like 5 to 6 people that we follow throughout this kitchen.
Yeah.
Those two being one, and then Sydney, she's a new chef that is introduced. Well,
did you recognize her?
No, I didn't know all these. I only recognized Jeremy Allen White.
Ayo Itebiri. We've talked about her before because we've done a ton of shows with her before. She's the voice that replaced the character on Big Mouth. Exactly. Dickinson, Friend, The Premise, and also now The Bear. So she's been in. We've done every show that she's been in. We're tracking her career.
Yeah, well, she plays like a qualified chef here, and that's something that's different from all the other chefs that are at.
And
this
she
place.
clashes head with Carmen, right?
No, like they're really friendly. In fact,
I thought because they were the main two that like they would have a rivalry going on.
Sydney is again the only person who's really nice to Carmen, as we see in this whole entire episode. She's
wait. Are they romanticizing the two?
No, no. In fact, I don't think that they're going to have a love interest for Carmen at this point. Like he seems like the one thing he cares about is keeping the restaurant afloat.
Priority number uno, the job, the work. But they also showed, you said at the beginning, that he worked somewhere else before his brother died, and then he came.
Well, they didn't show it. They talk about that in the episode.
Yeah.
When
so do you feel bad for him? Do you think that he should be doing what he's doing? Is he just trying to keep the family business afloat?
Yeah, that's the one thing. And even Richie says this line where he's like, before you came, like, I was able to run this restaurant fine. And then that's when Carmen turns to him and is like, then why didn't he give the restaurant to you then? And I was like, that's a good line because he was talking about his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, there were some, like, trust issues that were going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing about this show, the reason why it's so manic is because conversations will like start happening in the middle of other conversations and you'll have to just kind of keep track of what exactly they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like the two characters will start having completely different conversations with like other people.
Yeah.
And you'll have to like really like pay attention and understand what was going on. And it seems like that might get like a little annoying, but I actually really enjoyed that because you don't see that on
It sounds
TV
like a
shows.
spin on the Walk and Talk, which didn't become popular until it did, you know? So like maybe after this type of show, more and more you'll see it happen.
Like when Richie is first introduced and he's trying to speak to Carmen about the restaurant, like he has a conversation with 1,000 different people while still trying to actually have a conversation. Like he's being introduced to Sydney, for example, and then he's even speaking to Marcus, who's another cook there, and like and again, it was cool to like actually kind of see.
Considering that you've had a limited amount of time in the food service industry in the past,
this reminded me of
similar to.
It wasn't as bad as this TV show portrayed it as. Like, this TV show portrayed it as being hell. Like, people do not respect each other. The way that people are curt with each other was 100% how it was like when I was working. Like, I mean, you just...
The ego?
People might seem like they're actually, like, angry at you, but you just kind of have to deal with that because, here it was like every single character says something that could probably be perceived, especially the way they're saying it, as hurtful, but they just kind of have to go with it and keep going on with their day.
So much work to do.
Right, exactly.
And people are just so bogged down with everything that they're just going to spout off at whoever they have to.
Yep.
Did anybody get hurt? Did anybody get burned?
Yeah, in fact, we see Carmen, he's like bleeding and he doesn't even know it. He picks up like a really hot pan like in the middle of the episode, and when he's trying to fix this arcade game, it's called Ball Breaker. It's apparently the moneymaker that is supposed to make a ton of people want to come because they're holding a tournament there, and whoever wins gets like a month of like free, I think if they said Italian ice or something like that, or a year or whatever. But yeah, no, they're holding this tournament, and like when he's speaking to
like shave ice.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, and when speaking of Fack, who's a repairman / chef that works there, like, they're even saying that they can't unplug the ball breaker arcade machine because if they plug it back in again, they're not sure if it's going to, like, turn on. Mm-hmm. That's how broke this place is. But yeah,
did it remind you at all of Lip's character in Shameless?
Yes, it also
Jeremy Allen White.
The poster, the poster did, because season 4 particularly,
where Lip goes to work at
a restaurant.
No, he works at like his college, but like as a dishwasher.
Right.
So he's not doing like any actual cooking.
Yeah, but he has like the gloves and the hairnet and everything like that.
And so he's very similar in his dress. It's also shot in Chicago. The only other show we've done. Oh
yeah, Shameless is set in Chicago, isn't it?
Yeah. The other show that we've done recently is Shining Girls, was also set in Chicago.
Everything is just being set in Chicago now. Chicago, LA, or New York.
Yeah. And then also the fact that this is a family drama, the intensity of it, and the fact that it's a dark comedy also seems very Shameless.
And I knew it was a dark comedy. That's why I was expecting it to be like
How'd you know it was a dark comedy? A lot of people thought it was going to be just a straight out comedy.
Oh,
and
I didn't think that.
They went in there and they were disappointed. That was basically the main criticism.
Oh, I knew it was going to be a dark comedy just because I haven't seen Jeremy Allen White in anything else, but comedies like Shameless is still somewhat a comedy in and of itself.
Shameless and also The Rental and Homecoming. Yeah, Homecoming is definitely not a comedy.
It was 30 minutes also, and it was on FX. So I was like, chances are it's probably just going to be like a dark comedy.
FX is known for not having just straight up comedies. I get that.
And so when Carmen walked out, there's this huge line that's waiting because they all want to come in to play Ball Breaker.
Yes.
And he's trying to tell people to settle down because people are like banging on the glass and they're dressed up in ridiculous cosplay. One person is dressed up as a carrot. In fact, that's...
I like that.
Well, he gets in the fight with the person who's dressed as a carrot because the guy's pounding on the windows and he's like, hey, stop pounding on the window, stop doing all this stuff. And then the carrot starts punching him, and then a ton of people gang up on him and start just like kicking him and punching him and like getting a fight. And that's when finally...
Hold up. So if this is the beginning of the day, right? Because you said this is all happening in 1 hour.
No. This isn't all in 1 hour. This is like 6 hours or so.
I thought you were saying that this all took place, that all the episodes took place in one day.
I think the episodes are going to take place in one day.
But the first episode took place over 6 hours?
I think it's not going to be really in terms of time. I think it's going to be more in terms of what happens in the story. Because by the end of this episode...
Do you think it's going to focus on different people other than Carmen?
I think, that could definitely be the route that it takes. But this episode, like, it doesn't end with them opening up the doors. Like, the people are still in line by the end of this episode.
And these are all just impressions you're getting off of one episode.
Right, yeah.
Predictions, yeah. Okay.
And so, so when he's getting in the fight with people, that's finally when we see Richie, who we've seen throughout the whole entire episode. He says that he's able to run the place and that he should be able to, like, be trustworthy enough to do so. But that's when we see him... No, that's when we see him actually stand up for himself. Because right before Carmen came out, he asked Richie to help him, and Richie was like, "No, it's apparently your store. You should go and like settle down the people." But when he's
very sassy.
Yeah, when he's getting beat up, that's when Richie comes out with a gun, shoots it up in the air, and kind of is like, "Okay, everyone, you have to settle the fuck down. We're going to have a tournament. You have to buy." Apparently, the reason why they're going to get so much money that day is because they have to buy like an Italian sub or something like that upon entry. Yeah. That's the way that they're going to be able to pay for it. And so
it's like when you get the Olympics at your town, you're supposed to make the money back by all the things that are going on, but that never happens.
Right, exactly, yeah.
By just the tourism aspect of it.
And that's when finally Carmen like kind of comes to respect Richie. But Richie is still mad at Carmen just for everything that's going on because he feels like he's upsetting the system by doing stuff like this. Like doing this random ball breaker arcade game.
So it was just Carmen's idea to try to raise some money.
Right. And apparently it got pretty big on social media. We saw that at the beginning of the episode. But that's when Richie kind of puts Carmen in his place. At the very beginning, when we first see Richie, he talks about how they made this spaghetti. And even all the chefs are like, yes, that spaghetti was amazing. Everyone liked it. We liked it. It tastes really good. But Carmen was just completely against the idea of spaghetti. And then...
Because they're a sandwich shop.
Yeah, and he feels like it doesn't fit on the menu.
Yes, but they're Italian.
But that's when
it does.
Yeah, that's when Richie is like, make the fucking spaghetti because we're going to try and feed all these people here.
Because they're out of meat for the sandwiches. Yeah, that's what I was waiting for, is some explanation.
They're running very low on food. Yeah. And so, and then by the end of the episode, we also see that Carmen is about to make the spaghetti even though he really doesn't want to. He uncaps the tomato sauce, and then he's like, fuck this, and he throws it in the trash can. That's where the first episode ends.
So he's not going to make the spaghetti.
Yeah.
So that's what this whole show is focused on right now, is whether or not they decide to make spaghetti.
There's also a side storyline where Sydney, because she was the new chef, had to make food for the whole crew, and we learned that she's like a really good chef. Even Carmen tastes her food and is like, "This," he says, "This is fire," and then everyone else also, like, for the lunch or whatever, tastes her food and they're like, "This is really good," and stuff like that. So yeah, overall,
who's your favorite character?
I would say probably Carmen. I think Jeremy Allen White is the best part of this TV show.
It is around him. So.
Yeah, I think that he's the best actor. He really sells the role well. But I also just like the interactions in between everybody, because not everyone is just like nice with each other. You see there's obvious tension between either family or friends. And it's really just their one objective is to try and keep this restaurant afloat.
The co-showrunner, Joanna Kahlo, has also done BoJack, Hacks, The Babysitter Club.
BoJack Horseman makes sense after seeing this.
So this feels a little bit like BoJack because of the hecticness that you were talking about. NPR said FX is the Bears' funny, raw, real drama in a restaurant. IndieWire says Ayo Edebiri catches fire in FX's intense cooking drama, which is funny because of the fire comment you just made. Hollywood Reporter said it was unrelenting cacophony. You don't want to know, but you won't be able to look away. Vulture said
no, I agree 100% with that. Unrelenting and like not being able to look away, even though what you're seeing is just people being mad at each other a lot of the time.
Vulture said it was gorgeously, addictively stressful. It has an 8.3 on IMDb and 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not a lot of bad reviews for it. I even went searching for some, right? And so I went to The Guardian, because sometimes they like to be really Guardian. Harsh, but they were too interested in bashing Netflix's Snowflake Mountain, which they did skewer. So overall, what'd you think, though?
I thought that I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Another 8 out of 10, so FX continues its streak.
Yeah, I would probably continue watching this as well. It was a lot like the ER pilot. Because like the ER pilot follows the one doctor, but he has to deal with so many different problems that keep coming up.
Emergency,
right.
Walk and talk.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like I said, Uncut Gems, bust down corporate chef. The food looked really good. I just really like the shots because you see like a lot of people like cutting up vegetables, and it was like ASMR for the eyes almost.
Did you believe that they were actually that they had experience?
I thought they were. I thought they did.
Well, I mean, Jeremy Allen White did end up going to like a 2-week course at like a pretty famous cooking place, and then he went and worked at like a Michelin restaurant on the line for a while. And then I'm assuming the rest of the actors also had their own type of like cooking workshops that they had to do before
it looked like they knew what they were doing. And also, like I said, Jeremy Allen White, information flies by a mile a minute. So yeah, those were my pros. My only cons were kind of plot holes, like the fact that they would get so much money from Ball Breaker, an arcade game, even though
the money's not coming from the Ball Breaker, but the people who are going in there and paying for food.
Yeah, I understand, but the fact that like they would have such a big line for an arcade game, and they tried to explain it by being like, this arcade game is banned in all these different countries, but I was still just kind of like, that doesn't really make 100% sense. And then
I don't know. I went to a sandwich shop in Boston in like 2012 that was just by word of mouth and college kids the craziest place, because it had a lot. It wasn't actually a sandwich shop. It was a convenience store, but the guy made sandwiches. And the thing was out the door, and he was like, it was insane.
Was it out the door for an arcade game?
It was out the door for a convenience store, just a normal convenience store.
A lot of people weren't coming to the store for the food; they were coming for the arcade game. That was the thing.
That's fair. The other fact is that FX, because I know now that their streak is alive and going on, the next freshman show that they have coming out is a docuseries chronicling the purchase and stewardship of the Wrexham AFC being like the Australian football thing or something. One of professional football's oldest clubs, by 2 Hollywood actors who are like running the docuseries, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, the guy from
wow, that is
from
weird.
Mythic Quest, and also from
It's Always Sunny. That's a weird pair to have.
That's an awesome pair to have. I think they'll bounce off each other really well in that. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do that one. Thanks for listening to this episode. Anything else you want to say for the show before we end it?
No, that's about it.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.